Caught in a Hailstorm. Welcome back to Writer's Theory. I'm James Winterthorn, and I'm sharing my 54th day of writing on my project to write a novel in 90 days. We left off yesterday with our protagonist, Cole Mercer, having just had a supernatural, crazy event happen to him while he's journeying from Missouri to what'll end up being Colorado. And today he's still early in that trip, still early on in Kansas. And I'm going to be focused on that journey and just what might happen to someone riding a horse through Kansas in the middle of the summer. So we're going to have him caught in some weather. So let's get to day 54 and see how well I describe this. So again, this is where I'm going to mix some exposition and some description in here just to move this along. I already have a feeling that this is going to be such a long, or not too long, but a longer part of the story than I expected it to be. And I don't need it to be overly descriptive and slow the story down in an unproductive way. So I'm going to sprinkle in some exposition to just get by. So like the examples of that, if you're wondering what I'm talking about, like it says by the fourth day, he tacked more north deliberately. Well, that's me explaining what he did on the fourth day instead of describing every single action that he took, and instead I just said he tacked north. Because I could have described it, but then this would, if I did that in every scene, I'd end up with a 300,000 page novel. Not page, that'd be way too long. 300,000 word novel for what could be 100,000 word novel, or 80. So sometimes that description there is very important, or using that exposition rather, and finding that blend is very important. Here I wanted to develop the relationship a little more with the horse. I don't need him like whispering to her all the time. But if they're caught in a hailstorm, he's going to do what he can to protect her too. And I really wanted some descriptions there about what it's like after a hailstorm comes through and you can just smell the vegetation that's just been destroyed by the hail, and just what a visceral sensation that is. So I wanted to describe that here. I wanted to have the moment where he's trying to protect the horse's face with his blanket. And I think I did a pretty good job. I wasn't really expecting to write this when I started this session, but I like how it turned out. And once the session's over, once I share the second part, I'll share, if I can recall, a scene in a book that made me think of writing this scene. But right now, let's get back to the rest of day 54 and see how the rest of the scene goes. And so here, what I just imagine what somebody might do after just getting beat up and rained on by a hailstorm, what you might do to just recover from that. And I wanted this moment of, I wanted to say making lemonade. And then I look, when life gives you lemons, you make lemonade, of course. Well, that wasn't a saying here, so I have him make another statement, but I wanted that type of moment to have happen. So he goes and finds a piece. He says better than lemonade. That's me poking fun at. Oh, there you go. I said I wanted to say lemonade. I said here's to making hay. or making the best of a bad situation, where he grabs a piece of hail and uses it as a chunk of ice for his whiskey. And then they just move on. No sense in dwelling. We had that experience, and he carries on writing, seeing some indications of people. So I'm going to keep the descriptions good enough. This is where I'm really going to just rely on the reader to fill in what things look like, how things were, and not have to have pages and pages of description, and instead just have a couple paragraphs. So I ended there with, I don't think I intended on including a tinker in the story, but I did, and we'll see how that goes. The inspiration for the hail scene, it was in one of Glenn Cook's Black Company stories, where they're traveling and they're with the native people that live in the living in this place where they've journeyed to, and they get caught in a hailstorm, and there was something just really cool about it, and how the people that lived there were so excited for the hail that they went out and collected as much of it as possible so they could have ice. And it wasn't a big part of the story. It didn't tell any part of the narrative. But the scene itself was just very visual, and it was just a cool scene. So I kind of wanted to have a scene like that happen here. And so that's where that comes from. I think it was Books of the South. Which one, I'm not sure. I think those were a collection of stories. But that was from The Black Company by Glenn Cook. So with that, let's get to today's line of the day. Wind whipped behind him and threatened to carry his hat to Indiana. The trees ahead fought against the torrent in violent and forceful gestures, as if they were threatening to pull up their roots and leave. So I got really close to reading that correctly. But I liked this description. I know the one sentence is a little bit long, but I wanted the trees to feel animated and almost having their own agency. And so that's why I selected this as today's line of the day. Tomorrow, I've introduced a new character here, kind of an unexpected character, going to play a very minor role in the story. But I guess I'm including a tinker in the story now. So if you want to see what role this character plays, be sure to like and subscribe, ring the bell, so I can tell you all about it tomorrow. Wind whipped